Genesis chapter 47, verse 28. And Jacob lived in the land of Mizraim 17 years, and the sum of the days of Jacob, of the days of his life, was 147 years. And the days of Israel drew near to die, and he called to his son, to Joseph, and said to him, If now I have found favor before thee, put thy hand on the place of my circumcision, and deal with me in goodness and truth, that thou wilt not bury me in Mizraim, that I may sleep with my fathers, and thou mayest carry me from Mizraim, and bury me in their sepulchre. But because he was his son, he did not so put his hand, but said, I will do according to thy word. And he said, Swear to me. And he sware to him. And immediately the glory of the Shekinah of Yahuwah was revealed to him. And Israel worshipped upon the pillow of the bed. Chapter 48. And after these things it was told Joseph, Behold, thy father is lying ill. And he took his 2 sons with him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it was announced to Jacob, saying, Behold, thy son Joseph hath come to thee. And Israel strengthened himself, and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai revealed himself to me at Luz, in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said to me, Behold, I will increase thee and multiply thee, and make thee an assemblage of tribes, and will give this land to thy sons after thee, for an everlasting inheritance. And now thy 2 sons who have been born to thee in the land of Mizraim, before I came to thee into Mizraim, are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh, as Reuben and Shimeon, shall be reckoned unto me. And thy children, whom thou mayest beget after them, shall be mine. By the name of their brethren shall they be called in their inheritance. And I beseech thee to bury me with my fathers. Rachel died by me suddenly in the land of Canaan, while there was yet much ground to come to Ephrath. Nor could I carry her to bury her in the double cave. But I buried her there, in the way of Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Israel looked at the sons of Joseph, and said, From whom are these born to thee? And Joseph answered his father, They are my sons, which the word of Yahuwah gave me, according to this writing. According to which I took Asenath, the daughter of Dinah, thy daughter, to be my wife. And he said, Bring them now near to me, and I will bless them. But Israel's eyes were heavy from age, and he could not see. And he brought them to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, To see thy face I had not reckoned. But behold, Yahuwah hath also showed me thy sons. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and worshipped on his face upon the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right side, which was Israel's left, and Manasseh on his left side, which was Israel's right, and brought them to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon the head of Ephraim, though he was the younger, and his left hand upon the head of Manasseh, altering his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, Yahuwah, who hath fed me since I have been unto this day, be pleased that the angel whom thou didst ordain for me, to redeem me from all evil, may bless the children, and let my name be called upon them, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac. And as the fishes of the sea in multiplying are multiplied in the sea, so may the children of Joseph be multiplied abundantly in the midst of the earth. And Joseph saw that his father placed his right hand upon Ephraim's head, and it was evil before him. And he uplifted his father's hand to remove it from off the head of Ephraim, that it might rest on the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Lay thy right hand on his head. But his father was not willing, and said, I know, my son. I know that he is the firstborn, and also that he will be a great people, and will also be multiplied. Yet will his younger brother be greater than he, and his sons be greater among the nations. And he blessed them in that day, saying, In thee, Joseph, my son, shall the house of Israel bless their infants in the day of their circumcision, saying, Yahuwah set thee as Ephraim and Manasseh. And in the numbering of their tribes the prince of Ephraim shall be numbered before the prince of Manasseh. And he appointed that Ephraim should be before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, Behold, my end cometh to die, but the word of Yahuwah shall be your helper, and restore you to the land of your fathers. And I, behold, I have given to thee the city of Shechem, one portion for a gift above thy brethren, which I took from the hand of the Amorrhei at the time that you went into the midst of it. And I arose and helped you with my sword and with my bow. Chapter 49. And Jacob called his sons and said to them, Purify yourselves from uncleanness, and I will show you the hidden mysteries, the ends concealed, the recompense of reward for the righteous, the retribution of the wicked, and the bower of Eden, what it is. And the 12 tribes of Israel gathered themselves together around the golden bed whereupon he reclined, and where was revealed to him the Shekinah of Yahuwah, though the end, for which the king Mashiach is to come, had been concealed from him. Then said he, Come, and I will declare to you what shall befall you at the end of the days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and receive instruction from Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, the beginning of the strength of my generation, and the chief event of my thoughts. To thee belong the birthright, and the high priesthood, and the kingdom. But because thou hast sinned, my son, the birthright is given to Joseph, and the kingdom to Yehudah, and the priesthood to Levi. I will liken thee to a little garden, in the midst of which there enters torrents swift and strong, which it cannot bear, but is overwhelmed. Be repentant then, Reuben, my son, for thou hast sinned, and add not, that wherein thou hast sinned, it may be forgiven thee. For it is reckoned to thee as if thou went in to have to do with the wife of thy father at the time that thou didst confound my bed, upon which thou wentest up. Shimeon and Levi are brothers of the womb. Their thoughts are of sharp weapons of rapine. In their counsel my soul hath not had pleasure, and in their gathering against Shechem, to destroy it, mine honor was not united. For in their anger they slew the prince and his ruler, and in their ill will they demolished the wall of their adversary. And Jacob said, Accursed was the town of Shechem, when they entered within it to destroy it in their violent wrath, and their hatred against Joseph, for it was relentless. If, said Jacob, they dwell together, no king nor ruler may stand before them. Therefore will I divide the inheritance of the sons of Shimeon into 2 portions. One part shall come to them out of the inheritance of the sons of Yehudah, and one part from among the rest of the tribes of Jacob. And the tribe of Levi I will disperse among all the tribes of Israel. Yehudah, thou didst make confession in the matter of Tamar. Therefore shall thy brethren confess thee, and shall be called Yehudim from thy name. Thy hand shall avenge thee of thy adversaries, in throwing arrows upon them when they turn their backs before thee. And the sons of thy father shall come before thee with salutations. I will liken thee, my son Yehudah, to a whelp, the young of a lion. For from the killing of Joseph my son, thou didst uplift thy soul, and from the judgment of Tamar thou wast free. He dwelleth quietly and in strength as a lion, and as an old lion when he reposeth, who may stir him up? Kings shall not cease, nor rulers from the house of Yehudah, nor Sepharim teaching the law from his seed, till the time that the king, the Messiah, shall come, the youngest of his sons, and on account of him shall the peoples flow together. How beauteous is the king, the Messiah, who will arise from the house of Yehudah. He hath girded his loins and descended, and arrayed the battle against his adversaries, slaying kings with their rulers. Neither is there any king or ruler who shall stand before him. The mountains become red with the blood of their slain. His garments, dipped in blood, are like the outpressed juice of grapes. How beautiful are the eyes of the king Mashiach, as the pure wine. He cannot look upon what is unclean, nor on the shedding of the blood of the innocent. And his teeth, purer than milk, cannot eat that which is stolen or torn. And therefore his mountains are red with wine, and his hills white with corn, and with the coats of flocks. Zebulun shall dwell upon the banks of the sea, and have dominion over the havens. He will surmount the breakers of the sea with ships, and his border will extend unto Zidon. Issachar is an ass in the law, a strong tribe, knowing the order of the times. and he lieth down between the limits of his brethren. And he saw the rest of the world to come that is good, and the portion of the land of Israel that is pleasant. Therefore bowed he his shoulders to labor in the law, and unto him shall come his brethren bearing presents. From the house of Dan there is to arise a man who will judge his people with the judgment of truth. All the tribes of Israel will hearken to him together. A chosen man shall arise from the house of Dan, like the basilisk which lieth at the dividing of the way, and the serpent's head which lurketh by the way, that biteth the horse in his heel, and the master from his terror is thrown backward. Even thus will Shimshon bar Banovek slay all the heroes of Philistia, the horsemen in the foot. He will hamstring their horses and hurl their riders backwards. When Jacob saw Gideon bar Joash and Shimshon bar Manovak, who were established to be deliverers, he said, I expect not the salvation of Gideon, nor look I for the salvation of Shimshon, for their salvation will be the salvation of an hour. But for thy salvation have I waited, and will look for, O Yahuwah, for thy salvation is the salvation of eternity. The tribe of Gad with the rest of the tribes will, armed, pass over the streams of Arnona, and subdue before them the pillars of the earth. And armed will they return into their limits with much substance, and dwell in peace beyond the passage of Jardina. For so will they choose, and it shall be to them to receive their inheritance. Happy is Asher, whose fruitage is plenteous, and whose land aboundeth in balsams and costly perfumes. Naphtali is a swift messenger, like a hind that runneth on the tops of the mountains, bringing good tidings. He it was who announced that Joseph was living. He it was who hastened to go to Mizraim, and bring the contract of the double field, in which Esau had no portion. And when he shall open his mouth in the congregation of Israel to give praise, he shall be the chosen of all tongues. Joseph, my son, thou hast become great and mighty. The end determined on thee was that thou should be mighty, because thou didst subdue thy inclination in the matter of thy mistress, and in the work of thy brethren. Thee will I liken to a vine planted by fountains of water, which sendeth forth her roots, and overturneth the ridges of stone, and covereth by her branches all unfruitful trees. Even so didst thou, my son Joseph, subject by thy wisdom and thy good works all the magicians of Mizraim. And when, celebrating thy praises, the daughters of princes, walking on the high places, cast before thee bracelets and chains of gold, that thou should lift up thine eyes upon them. Thine eyes thou wouldst not lift up on one of them, to become guilty in the great day of judgment. And all the magicians of Mizraim were bitter and angry against him, and brought accusations against him before Pharaoh, expecting to bring him down from his honor. They spake against him with a slanderous tongue, which is severe as arrows. But he returned to abide in his early strength, and would not yield himself unto sin, and subdued his inclinations by the strong discipline he had received from Jacob, and thence became worthy of being a ruler, and of being joined in the engravings of the names upon the stones of Israel. From the word of Yahuwah shall be thy help, and he who is called the all-sufficient shall bless thee with the blessings which descend with the dew of heaven from above, and with the good blessing of the fountains of the deep, which ascend and clothe the herbage from beneath. The breasts are blessed at which thou wast suckled, and the womb in which thou didst lie. The blessings of thy father be added to the blessings wherewith my fathers Abraham and Isaac have blessed me, in which the princes of the world Ishmael and Esau and all the sons of Keturah have desired. Let all these blessings be united, and form a diadem of majesty for the head of Joseph, and for the brow of the man who became chief and ruler in Mizraim, and the brightness of the glory of his brethren. Benjamin is a strong tribe, like the wolf with his prey. In his land will dwell the Shekinah of Yahuwah of the world, and the house of the sanctuary be builded in his inheritance. In the morning will the priests offer the lamb continually until the 4th hour, and between the evenings the 2nd lamb. And at eventide will they divide the residue remaining of the offering, and eat every man his portion. All these tribes of Israel are 12. They are all righteous together, and this it is which their father spake to them, and blessed them, according to his blessing, bless he each man. And he commanded them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cavern which is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the double field over against Mamre in the land of Canaan. For Abraham bought the field of Ephron the Hittite for an inheritance of burial. Therefore they buried Abraham, and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac, and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field, and the cave that it is in, of the sons of Hittite. And Jacob ceased to command his sons, and he gathered up his feet into the midst of the bed, and expired, and was gathered unto his people. Chapter 50. And Joseph laid his father upon a couch of ivory, which was framed with pure gold, and inlaid with precious stones, and secured with cords of byssus. There they poured out fervid wines, and there burned they most costly perfumes. There stood the chiefs of the house of Esau, and the chiefs of the house of Ishmael. There stood the Lion of Yehudah, the strength of his brethren. He answered and said to his brethren, Come, and let us raise up to our father a tall cedar, whose head shall reach to the top of heaven, and its branches overshadow all the inhabitants of the earth, and its roots extend to the depths of the abyss. From it have arisen the 12 tribes, and from it will arise kings, princes, and priests in their divisions, to offer oblations, and from it the Levites in their appointments for singing. Then behold, Joseph bowed himself upon his father's face, and wept over him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And the 40 days of embalming were completed to him, for so fulfill they the days of embalming. And the Mizraim lamented him 70 days, saying one to another, Come, let us lament over Jacob the Holy, whose righteousness turned away the famine from the land of Mizraim. For it had been decreed that there should be 42 years of famine. But through the righteous of Jacob 40 years are withheld from Mizraim, and there came famine but for 2 years only. And the days of his mourning passed, and Joseph spake with the lords of the house of Pharaoh, saying, If I may find favor in your eyes, speak now in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Behold, I die. In the sepulchre which I have prepared for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. And now let me go up and bury my father, and I will return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, according as he made thee swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mizraim went up with him. And all the men of Joseph's house, and his brethren, and his father's household, only their children and their sheep and oxen left they in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him chariots and horsemen, and a very great host. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and there they lamented with a great and mighty lamentation. And he made there a mourning for his father 7 days. And the inhabitants of the land of Canaan beheld the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, and they loosed the girdles of their loins in honor of Jacob, and spread forth their hands, and said, This is a mighty mourning of the Mizraim. Therefore he called the name of the place Abel Mizraim, which is on the other side of the Jordan. And his sons did for him as he had commanded them. But when his sons had brought him into the land of Canaan, and the thing was heard by Esau the wicked, he journeyed from the mountain of Gibala with many legions, and came to Hebron, and would not suffer Joseph to bury his father in the double cave. Then forthwith went Naphtali and ran, and went down to Mizraim, and came in that day, and brought the instrument that Esau had written for Jacob his brother in the controversy of the double cave. And immediately he beckoned to Husham the son of Dan, who unsheathed the sword, and struck off the head of the wicked Esau. And the head of Esau rolled into the midst of the cave, and rested upon the bosom of Isaac his father. And the sons of Esau buried his body in the double field. And afterward the sons of Jacob buried him in the cave of the double field, in the field which Abraham bought for an inheritance sepulchre of Ephron the Hittite, over against Mamre. And Joseph returned to Mizraim, he and his brethren, and all who went up with him to bury his father, after they had buried his father. And Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, and that he, Joseph, did not return to eat together with them. And they said, Perhaps Joseph will bring upon us all retaineth enmity against us, and will bring upon us all the evil that we did him. And they instructed Bilhah to say to Joseph, Thy father commanded before his death to speak to thee. Thus shall you say to Joseph, Forgive now the guilt of thy brethren and their sin, for they committed evil against thee. But forgive, I beseech thee, the guilt of the servants of the Elohim of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake with him. And his brethren came also, and bowed themselves before him, and said, Behold, we are thy servants. And Joseph said to them, Fear not, for I will not do you evil, but good. For I fear and humble myself before Yahuwah. You indeed imagine against me evil thoughts, that when I did not recline with you to eat, it was because I retained enmity against you. But the word of Yahuwah thought on me for good. For my father hath caused me to sit at the head, and on account of his honor I received. But now, not for the sake of my own righteousness or merit, was it given me to work out for you deliverance this day, for the preservation of much people of the house of Jacob. And now fear not, I will sustain you and your little ones. And he comforted them, and spake consolation to their heart. And Joseph dwelt in Mizraim, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. Also the sons of Machir, the sons of Manasseh, when they were born, were circumcised by Joseph. And Joseph said to his brethren, Behold, I die. But Yahuwah remembering will remember you, and will bring you up from this land, into the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph adjured the sons of Israel to say to their sons, Behold, you will be brought into servitude in Mizraim, but you shall not presume to go up out of Mizraim until the time that the two deliverers shall come, and say to you, Remember ye Yahuwah. And at the time when you go up, ye shall carry up my bones from hence. And Joseph died, the son of 110 years, and they embalmed him with perfumes, and laid him in an ark, and submerged him in the midst of the Nile of Mizraim.